Hey, what's going on, guys? It's Anton here. So in this video, I want to show you guys how to tidy up your code and keep everything, clean and organized. Because right now we have like a bunch of stuff. We have a bunch of stuff in our bot.js file. I want to start organizing everything. So this is going to be a command handler tutorial. So you can see right over here that I already have created a couple of directories. So I actually do have a command handler video, but that tutorial it only works if all of the files are in one directory. Let's say if you have a bunch of commands and you want to categorize it into like different subfolders, it won't work. But however, this command handler will work recursively, and I'll show you guys. Okay, so right now you can see that a couple of things that are different is I actually created a new folder called source src, and I moved the bot.js file into that source folder. Inside this source folder, I created a folder called commands. And this is where I'm going to keep all of my commands, okay? So the idea of a command handler is what it does is it's going to read the commands folder, and it's going to go through every single .js file, and it's going to register that command so that it is recognized. Okay, so this is actually going to be a two-part tutorial. We're going to do the command handler first, and then the event handler. Those two things should go together all the time, in my opinion. Okay, but so basically it's going to read these files. Every single one of these JavaScript files is going to export a function. Okay, so for example, band.js is going to do module.export.run. This is going to export an async function that is going to take in the client object. It's also going to take, actually wait, no, sorry, it's not going to take in the client object. Actually, I gotta double check real quick. Actually, it could take in the client object if you need to. That's really up to you. But typically what it does is it should take in the client message and I think arguments, if I remember correctly. It's been a while since I've done this before, so please bear with me. But yes, I think if I remember correctly, it's these three arguments, because there might be a chance inside this command you might need to reference the client, which is the Discord client itself. Okay, the message is obviously the original message, and args are the arguments. Okay, but yeah, so typically this is how it works. So we're gonna paste this all here. Okay, so we have 4 commands, so it's pretty straightforward. Okay, so let's get rid of that. Okay, so this code was actually some old code that I wrote a while ago. I actually saw someone else's command handler, and I actually liked their implementation. And I tried to implement my own. Well, the idea was actually very similar to a command handler, but I used this for a different project that was not a Discord.js project. It was an Express project. I really like the idea of command handler. It's actually a very smart idea, so I decided to use it for a different project. But what we're going to do is we're just going to take this old code and we're going to modify a little bit. But don't worry, you don't really have to worry so much about what this code does, to be honest with you, but I'm going to try my best to explain everything anyways. So the idea, again, is to, or basically this function is called an IFI, which stands for immediately invoked function expression. IFE. That's what they call it, okay? What that means is as soon as this bot.js module runs, this function is going to be called immediately, okay? The reason why is because we have these parentheses over here, okay? And the reason, sometimes you may want ifs to do certain things as soon as a module is being ran. So as soon as this function is being immediately invoked, over here the parameter we have the parameter dir. By default, if you don't pass in any parameters, the value of dir is going to be commands. Okay, the reason why is because on the first iteration, dir itself is going to be empty. Okay, because this function itself is going to be recursively called, and I'll get to that in just a sec. Okay, so what you have to do is you actually have to import 2 things. Up here, you want to make sure you are requiring the fs module, so const fs equals required fs promises. That's the promise version of the fs library. And then you want to import the path module, which allows you to resolve paths and do a bunch of stuff. Both of these modules are part of Node.js. You don't have to install it. Okay, so we're going to go down here. And on this line over here, we're saying let files equal await fs.read dir. What this is doing is we are reading the commands directory right over here. Okay, so path.join, what this part is doing is we are joining the current directory. We're joining it with commands so we can build out the relative path that we can read files from. Okay, because basically I want to read all the files inside this directory over here. Okay, so now watch this. If I save, the bot's going to restart, and you're going to see it's going to log 3 elements. Well, it's going to log an array with 3 elements, right? Fun.js, mod, and roll.js. But notice how it doesn't log band.js and kick.js, because we are not recursively calling this entire we're not recursively searching through every single file. So that's one thing that we have to do. Okay, so the rest of the code does that. Okay, if we look at the comments, well, I wrote some comments, which is pretty cool. But let's go through this code. So right now, this is going to be, we're in the first iteration, we're in the first function call, right? As soon as we run our script, it's going to call this register commands function immediately. That's what an ify does. Okay, so once it calls this command, we pass in path.join with 2 arguments, dir name and dir. Okay, dir is commands, so we are reading this folder. So now what we want to do is we want to loop through this array, because remember, files is an array. Files are these 3 elements over here. We're going to loop through each file, and what we want to do is we want to see if that file is a directory. So what we're doing here is we are saying let stat equal await fs.lstat, and this lstat function will give you information about the file. Okay, so inside this function call, what we're doing is we are using the path module to join together a relative or absolute path. In this case, it's a relative path. Okay, let me actually show you guys what path really does. Okay, so because I know I'm gonna be saying it over and over again, but I really want to show you guys what it does. So let's just say, for example, if I log dir name to the console, you're gonna see it's gonna log my current directory, the absolute directory over here. Now, if I do path.join, and let's say if I join dir name with, let's say, commands, right? All this will do is it will join together the current directory's name with the commands folder. Okay, it's just a string. That's all that's doing. Figured I'd let you guys know, just so you guys aren't confused. So basically over here, we are joining dir name with the dir, the value of dir, which is currently commands, and we're adding another field over here, another argument, which is file. And now this file part, this itself is the actual file that's part of the array. Okay, because what we're doing here is we are building a new path, right? So for example, over here, let's say if the first element that's going to be interpreted is going to be fun.js. So after this line, what we're doing here is we are joining dir name. So in this case, we're joining c/user/anson/document/v12 discord.js bot/source/commands, right? We're joining that with file, and file is currently fun.js, okay? So since fun.js is not a directory, right? Because over here on line 200, I don't know if you guys can see that, but we are checking to see if that, right? Remember, because fs.lstat will give us, it'll return information about the file. We're checking to see if that file is a directory. If it's a directory, we're going to invoke register. Well, this should actually be register commands. Sorry. Originally, this function was called register models because, again, it was from the old code over here. But I just forgot to change it. But we're going to invoke this register commands function again. And what we're going to do this time is we're going to pass in a new value for this dir parameter, and that new value is going to be the path to the directory, okay, which is going to be mod in this case. Okay, so path.join dir with the file. So dir, remember, dir in this case is going to be commands in the first call, and then we're joining it with file, which is going to be mod. Yeah, I know it's a little bit weird, but I really encourage you guys to try your best to just study this code, okay? I mean, honestly, you don't really have to worry so much about what this code really, how it works. But of course, I just always urge you guys to, just study it so you guys can learn. The more you learn, the more easier things become. Okay, so yes, if it's a directory, it's going to call this function recursively, and then it's just going to do the same thing. It's going to read the entire directory. It's going to read the mod directory. It's going to loop through every single file. Okay, in this case, the mod directory does not have any. It does not have any subdirectories, so it's just going to. It's never going to have to call register commands again. Okay, and this is basically going to keep on happening until we run out of directories to call. Okay, and so let's say, for example, if it's not a directory, so let's say we're at fun.js, what we need to do is we need to check to see if the file ends with .js. And if it does, what we want to do is we want to get the file name. So we're going to say let's, well, we're going to call it a command name because really the name of the command is going to match the name of the file. Okay, so we're going to say let command name equals, and what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and say, why don't we do this? File dot index of, or I'm sorry, how did I do this again? Kind of have to reference my other code. I didn't do it in this one, so it's been a while, but basically I just want to get the name of the file. So since that's a string itself, we're going to do file dot, how did I do this again? I remember there was one way that I did it. I guess we can do substring 0 to the first occurrence of .js. Okay, so file.index of .js. Okay, so let's try this. Okay. Perfect. Okay, so we're using our previous knowledge to build upon new knowledge. Okay, so, and then after that, we have the path of the file. Okay, the path of the file is, I should say somewhere over here. There, okay, I think there, hold on, let me see what there is. Okay, so what we need to do next is we need to actually require the file. So we need to actually import this module so we can get this run function. And the reason why we need to do that is we're going to set the command name. We're gonna create a map, and we're gonna set the command name as a key. That key is gonna map to this function, this run function. Okay, and I'll show you guys how to do that. So we're gonna say let command module equal require, and we're gonna have to do the path. So I think off the top of my head, it's going to be path.join. It's going to be dir name joined with dir, and dir will give you the up to the directory, and then file, and that should be just fine. Because if I go ahead and if I log this to the console, we're gonna see that perfect. That's exactly what we wanted. Okay, great. So we did that. Okay, this just requires the file, just like how you would normally require any other file in JavaScript. This just requires the module at the current directory. Okay, but like I said, don't feel so overwhelmed about it. I'm gonna post this code on GitHub, and yeah, don't worry about it. I'm gonna post a link to the GitHub repository so you guys can just look at it and study it. And so what we're gonna do next is we're gonna go ahead and say up here, we're gonna go up here, and we're gonna go ahead and say client.commands equal new map. Okay, so we're gonna create a new map. So what I'm doing here is I am adding a property called commands on the client object, and this property itself is a map. Okay, the reason why I'm doing that is because I want all of the commands to be registered in that map over there. So what I'm going to do next, I'm going to say client.commands. Okay, we're going to say .set command name module. So that should do the trick. And I'm going to go ahead and let's see. Let's log that to the console. Perfect. Okay, so now you can kind of see what's going on now. After every single recursive call or every single iteration, you can see that all of the commands are being registered. And the key, so notice how over here we have 1 command registered, 2 commands, 3 commands, 4 commands. Okay, and notice how they're all mapping to this function. Okay, this run function. So yeah, that's pretty much it. I think that's really all we need to do for the command. So now what you need to be responsible for is actually invoking the command itself. Okay, so we're at 4. Well, we actually have a lot of time. Okay, perfect. Okay, so we're not done yet. So all we've done so far was we registered the commands. So let me explain why we need to require this module and set the value of the command name and the map to the module. The idea of this command handler is what we're going to do is whenever a message is being emitted, right? So we have to go inside the message event, and I'm going to comment everything here. This is such a mess. But we're going to fix everything together, so don't worry about it. So what we're going to do is, well, first of all, let's return if the message is a bot. Okay, so inside this message event, and when we get to the event handler, I'm going to show you guys what to do. Okay, so but over here, what we're going to do here is we're going to go ahead and we have to do some parsing. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to have to parse the command. So the same thing we've been doing with every other command, getting the arguments, right? Because right now what we're trying to do is we're trying to run some simple commands, right? So let's say, for example, if we wanted to do what was it again, the kick command, kick, right? If I wanted to do kick, I'll do something like this, right? And over here, what I need to do is I need to get the command name. So first, let's get the command name. It's very easy. We're just going to go ahead and say if, or let's just say this. Let cmd name equal message dot contents, and we're going to go ahead and do, I think the easiest thing to do is probably do splits. And I think pop shift will first, I'm just going to turn it. Okay, that should do the trick. So if I do console log command name, I know there's actually a written guide to doing this, but I don't really like copying code from like other people all the time. I like modifying it to my own needs. So let's just say kick, and that should give us here. Oh wait, is my bot even online? Oh, I'm in the wrong channel. Okay. There we go. Okay, so perfect. Okay, great. That works just fine. Okay, sorry about that. Okay, so we have the command name. Let's get rid of the command prefix. So we can honestly just do that by saying we're doing kind of a little bit of a string manipulation. So to get rid of the prefix, I can honestly just say is it substring, and we'll start from the index of the prefix. So message content index of, this is going to be very messy, index of prefix plus 1. That should just get us the our bot hasn't started up yet. So laggy. Oh, it did. Wait, what the hell? Okay, perfect. Okay, yeah, this is, I'm pretty sure there's a better thing. There's a better way to do this. Actually, I can just do this. Message.content.substring. This will give us the this will get rid of everything else. So this will give us the no. What am I doing? Okay, yeah, this is, I honestly don't like this, but substring. Okay, so that will give you everything without the command prefix. Okay, and then we can just do splits by spaces, or we can also specify a regular expression. Command args, and if you log this console. Bot hasn't logged in yet. Let's try this again. So now we have the command 1, 2, 3, 4. Perfect. That's exactly what we want. Okay. Okay. So again, I suggest using a regular expression because a split actually takes in a regular expression. So you can just do something like new regex and then S for space, and that should be just fine. We have to wait for a bot to begin. Okay, there we go, did it. Okay, and obviously if I do space, 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 that should also be just fine. Okay, the reason why I specified the regular expression is because sometimes people might do something like this, where they have like a number of spaces. So what this will do is it'll split it by as many spaces as possible. Okay, so no matter how many spaces you specify, it's always going to split it by a total number of spaces, which is great. Okay, so we can always have it like this. Okay, cool. So if I want to get the command name now, I'm just going to say let's command name equal command args.shift. So what shift does is it removes the first element from an array and returns it. Okay, and so we can say command name log args, log both of these because why not? Hopefully our bot is not lagging. Okay, perfect. Cool. Okay, so that removed the command name from the array. Okay, great. So now we can differentiate between the command name and the command arguments. Okay, the next thing we have to do is we need to, well, first of all, we should actually check to see if the message was actually sent with the prefix. So if message.content starts with, so if it doesn't start with the prefix, we're going to return. Okay, and if it does start with the prefix, we're going to continue off with the rest of the logic. Okay, so now the next thing we have to do is we're going to have to check the client.commands map property. So we're going to go ahead and check to see if the map has the key command name, or I'm sorry, let me rephrase that. So remember how our map looks something like this, right? We have a map of every single, did I comment this up by accident? Okay, so we basically have a map where the name of the command maps to a function. Okay, so we're going to check to see if that command name, if the value of the command name exists in the map as a key. So to do that, we're going to say client.commands.get command name. And if that is a truthy value, right? Right, so we're just going to say console log and exists. And else, we're just going to say command does not exist. Okay, so watch this. Command exists, right? It's because kick exists in the map. So does ban, so does fun. Let's try those other commands out. Let's try ban. Command exists. We roll. What was the other one? Fun. Okay, what if we tried mute? Right? Command does not exist. Perfect. Okay, cool. So now, since this command, if the command exists, what we're going to do next is we're going to go ahead and say client, the commands.get command name. So we're getting the key, because remember, the command names are the key in the map. So we're trying to get the function now. We're trying to basically get the module, because remember, the map itself, the keys are the commands, and those keys map to this function, this run function. Okay, it maps to the entire module. Okay, so what we're gonna do next is we're just gonna call run. Okay, and you're gonna notice now that if I go ahead, well, we're gonna call run, but we're gonna pass in the required arguments. So we're gonna pass in client message, and we're gonna pass in command args. Okay, so now watch this. We're gonna use the kick command now. We're gonna say message.channel.send kick command works. Okay, and let's try this out now. Question mark kick. What's going on? Missing permissions. Huh, what's going on? Does our bot now have permissions to chat or something? That's weird. Let me just verify something real quick. Hello? That's weird. My bot should have permissions though. Okay, so, yeah, I don't know why. That's for some reason. Let's just give it permissions real quick. Just give the raw, I mean. Whoa. What's going on? That's weird. Okay, well, I don't know what's going on here, but, that's so weird. It's right here. Okay, I knew it worked. I knew I wasn't freaking out over nothing. Okay, so yes, it works just fine. See? And if I go ahead and then if I just, let's get rid of hello. And if I move this here and let's just try all our commands out. So change this to band command, change this to roll command, change this to fun command. Let's save. Okay, let's try this fun, kick, and roll. Just like that. And ignore the Dinobot. Don't worry about him. But it works just fine. Okay? So, and we can also verify that the arguments and the message is also there. So, yeah, that's pretty straightforward. And so let me go ahead and try to re-explain everything all over again, because we still have a lot of time. So basically, starting out with this video, what we did here was we implemented this function. Well, I mean, I just copied my old function, I pasted it here. And again, I'm just gonna paste this code. I'm gonna put this code in my GitHub so you guys can just copy it and just like study it. But again, I explain everything on what this function does, what its main purpose is. The main purpose is to recursively call every single directory so that all of the commands are registered. Okay, and once all the commands are registered, in the message events, we need to take care of handling our commands and invoking the correct command. Okay, so over here on line 18, we return if the message is sent by a bot. On the next line, we're checking to see if the message starts with the correct prefix. If it doesn't, we're going to return. On the next line, what we're doing here is we are just getting the command arguments. Okay, and over here, we're just getting the command name. And then over here on line 23 and everything else, we're basically checking to see if the commands property on the client object that we added earlier, right? Remember, client.commands is a map, and we are basically calling the get function to see if the key, or if there is a value that is mapped by the value of cmd name. Remember, cmd name is the name of the command. Okay, so if this does not exist, that basically means the command was not registered, or it just doesn't exist, and it's just going to say command doesn't exist. If it does exist, we're going to do the same thing again, client.commands.get, and this time, remember, the get function will get you the value of the key in the map, and remember, the value is a function, right? It's the module that we required inside this function over here, right? Remember, we required that module. That module exports a function called run, and if the command exists, we're going to call the run function. We're going to pass in the client object itself, because we might need to use the client object to do things like fetching users, fetching guilds, etc. We pass in the message object because we might need to send messages in the channel. And finally, we pass in the parsed arguments of the command because we might need them for later on. Okay. So yeah, and that's pretty much it. And hopefully it's not too bad. In the next video, what I'm going to do is I'm going to move all of my commands from this file to their own individual files. So yeah, that's pretty much it. So again, hopefully this video made some sense. Again, if you guys have any questions, just join my Discord server. I'm always happy to answer questions if I have the time. Obviously, if I'm not busy, I'll definitely try my best to answer a lot of questions. Sometimes I just get overloaded with work and questions in general that I just don't have time. Or just, leave a comment down below, and I'll get back to you if I can. So, yeah, that's pretty much it for this video. Hopefully you guys learned a lot, and yeah, I'll see you guys in my next video. Peace.